Hello, and welcome once again to Performing the Arts. My name, as always, is Brian M. Davis. I forgot what season it is. So I think this is the tail end of season 3. If not, this might be season 4. But welcome back. And yeah, so today I'm talking to one of my friends, Mo. He is a film major at Brooklyn College, or at least that's how I remember him, because...
I'm a theater major, actually, but I am involved in the film community there.
Oh, okay. No. We kind of got together last year for a thing that I don't want to talk about, but it'd be a long discussion about the cluster that was the club thing. But anyway, I got to know him, and he's not only is he a great person to be around, but he's a talented musician too. So, Mo, how did you get into the performing arts?
It depends on what sense you're asking. I guess it was always a part of my interests. I used to I started playing guitar at a young age, and I guess I just committed with it, and pretty much all aspects of the performing arts has always grown out from that. I also love to draw a lot, and I kept doing that. Most of my interests have lied in animation, and I feel like animation and music do go hand in hand. So as I would try to improve myself as an animator, I would try to improve myself as a musician. And one thing I really wanted to do was make a little cartoon band, because I had no friends to make a band with. So I was like, why not learn to make the music myself and do that? Never happened, but still something I like keeping in my back pocket.
Yeah. I've seen your animation work. It is quite nifty for the most part, because it's unique.
Yeah.
Continue.
I was really the most vocal. I didn't actually start singing till I was well into high school. I did form a band in high school with a couple of friends. This is when I lived in Dubai. I lived in the UAE for 2 years, my 8th grade in middle school, and then high school freshman year. That's again a long story, but in high school I made a band with a few people, one of whom I still talk to. I'm friends with. His name's Creed. He lives in Vermont now. And I was the guitarist, and they kind of forced me into the singing position because no one else wanted to, and I didn't know how to say no. So that's where that began. I was not very good. There's definitely a video out there of me singing Clint Eastwood by Gorillaz. The next year I joined the school musical when I moved back to New Jersey. And I got an ensemble role. Again, I wasn't really that great of consistently, my voice, I know as a fact, is not terrible, but I don't think it's very amazing either. I'm very aware of the fact that my voice is not the greatest, but I do like to sing for fun. I think it's nice to be able to sing my own songs. But lately I've mostly been focusing on animation and film and all that stuff, but I do like to implement my own music in there. I did do more musicals in high school, but I kind of just stopped with this Bergen Pack performance of West Side Story. I didn't even sing in that one. I was Officer Schrank. But fun fact about that performance, person who played Maria in it, Rachel Zegler of the upcoming West Side Story remake coming out next year. It's a shame it wasn't supposed to come out this year, but
yeah,
next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It's sad because both the West Side Story and the In the Heights adaptations actually look pretty good. Well, In the Heights look good since I've only seen bits and pieces from what was shown in classes, and West Side,
West Side Story has nothing yet.
yeah, outside of I believe just promo pictures and stuff like that. So it's like,
Yeah, it's mostly stills and
but it
very
is.
clearly stuff made for promo.
Yeah, but it is still Spielberg, so you have to expect Spielberg is going to be like top at his top game, so to speak. So, yeah, and
I think it's a mixed bag with Spielberg. There are a lot of movies by him that are great, like his classics, Jaws, E.T., and even some newer stuff. I was quite a fan of. What was that one with Meryl Streep about the Nixon?
I was about to say
Like
Bridge of
before,
Spies. No, that was.
not Bridge of Spies. Came out recently. I
I know what you're talking
can
about.
look it up now.
Was it about the paper? Like the
Yes,
it might be the Washington Post or maybe the Post, something like that. But it was. I think it was about the Washington Post.
it was about the Post. Yeah, the
The
Post.
Post, like literally the Post.
I really like the Post a lot, but I feel like nowadays every time he makes one good movie, there will be one piece of crap in between it. Like I know the Post came out around the BFG, which
Yeah,
I didn't like very much, and then I think also before the Post was Ready Player One, which
a
I'm
lot.
one of those people.
Yeah, a lot of people have said it's
Yeah,
better than the book. It's way better than the book, but
I've heard the book is pretty bad.
yeah, it's like the term for the book was, I believe, very masturbatory fanboyism. Like,
Yeah,
wrote it was like really, really going, was like, hey, remember Pong? Or it was like, hey, remember this? Like, that's like
I mean
really.
that's the same thing with the movie though. It's all that and the characters and dialogue are just so cheesy. Like
Yeah,
this main like romantic plot line is about this guy who's not really that attractive, even though he's this hunk of a 20-something-year-old, and the girl is like, no, you don't want to meet me in real life, I'm not really beautiful. Meanwhile she's like this gorgeous Hollywood type, and her big thing is that she has one birthmark over here. Like,
yeah.
I might have the jawline of a supermodel, but my eye has a bruise over it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like the same thing with Phantom of the Opera with Gerard Butler. It's like, oh, Phantom of the Opera, classic musical character. He's supposed to be this very, uh, disfigured guy, and some of the productions have actually showed that he can be very disfigured. That sort of thing. And some of the productions have shown like he could still be beautiful but still be disfigured. And then Joel Schumacher, and I recently like watched the thing like just last year or so. It still holds up. It's just that you have to remember this is Gerard Butler, and this is practically before or after. I forget which, but it was either, I think it was probably before 300. But still, Gerard Butler at his like most prime. It's like you can't really pass off Gerard Butler as a disfigured person as the Phantom of the Opera. It's like you could, but at the same time, it's like trying to do. It's like the same thing with Les Miserables. It's like like Hugh Jackman as the main the main guy, and then it's like, oh, he's supposed to be like this thief, all that stuff. And it's like there are ways. Like I understand there are ways to do like stunt casting. It's like, oh, cast like the biggest type of actor for this role and see if they could see if they bite and stuff like that. Sometimes that's like that. Sometimes it works, especially for musicals. Mamma Mia. I wasn't gonna expect Meryl Streep to burst out a good performance, but this is Meryl Streep, and she sings, marginally well, and she does an entertaining version of a lot of those ABBA songs. The same with who's it called? Not Pierce. Well, Pierce Brosnan just sounds like
Pierce Brosnan was the weakest link of the entire movie.
I was like, it just sounds like Pierce Brosnan is just
Where
like
all those happy days that seem hard to find. Like that's how he sounds.
Yeah, but
like he's taking a shit.
Colin Firth, I think it was Colin Firth and Stellan Skarsgård. It's like they sing rather well for for actors who don't who are musicians, and
I think the thing about Mamma Mia that I feel like I was talking about this with Gab today because yesterday we watched Little Shop of Horrors. What I'm doing with Gab and Josiah is we're watching a Halloween movie every day of the month, and yesterday was Little Shop of Horrors. It's probably the best stage to screen adaptation, and we were talking about how Les Mis was bad, how Sweeney Todd was fine but still like not as good as the stage version of Sweeney Todd. And then one that I forgot to mention was Mamma Mia, because Mamma Mia as a movie is its own thing. It's not trying to, like, it's the same thing as a musical. It is not trying to be this big musical. Grand. It's just a fun thing for wine moms and stone teenagers to laugh at. So it is very entertaining. I remember watching with a bunch of friends in my hometown. We watched the first Mamma Mia movie and then went to the theater just down the block to watch the second one. The second one is better.
Yeah,
have you seen the second one?
Only bits and pieces of it. And the weird thing is, like, I know who stars in it too. It's like, oh, but I've only heard that the second one is, it has like a Cher cameo or at least a Cher supporting role. I'm like, oh, okay, Cher. You know, she's not really tied to Mamma Mia, but I mean ABBA, but she is the '70s, so it's like you gotta have that. If you're doing something about the '70s, you gotta have a Cher reference or some sort of
Cher.
Yeah, Cher.
It's Cher. There's no wrong way to go with it.
It's no reason other than, well, it's just Cher, so you know.
It adds nothing to the plot. It's something to do with the fact that she's Sophie's grandmother, and she sings Fernando. It's like they just had a cover of Cher singing Fernando rolling around, and they said, "Hey, you want to appear in this movie?" And she was like, "Okay, I have nothing to do this weekend. Yeah, why not?" It looks like they genuinely had, like, they looked like they had fun. It wasn't like Les Mis where it was trying to be this big Oscar bait movie, or actually pretty much all of these movie musicals. It's just Mamma Mia, especially Cats.
Yeah.
We were going on about how there were bad decisions made with each of these movies. Like Les Mis was obviously bad direction. Like Hugh Jackman's a good performer. They just kind of gave him the wrong thing. But Cats was a disaster from the start. There's no,
like, the moment you heard, the shoots are gonna be CGI, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Just like pack it up, we're done.
I gave up on that movie the second I heard it was an adaptation of Cats.
I mean, which is hilarious. It's and reading about Cats, because I never actually knew what the story about Cats was until the movie came out. It was like, I always assumed, Cats. It was like a musical about a couple of feral kitties or something like that. And then I started reading about the musical and stuff. I'm like, this is insane. And I'm like, there's this guy who can teleport. I'm like, wait. I'm like, wait, what? There's magic in this? I'm like, wait a minute. He goes all the way up into space. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like,
it's insane as a plot. Yeah. You can't make it as a CGI-esque live act. Like, I don't know if it's considered like CGI entirely, because the characters are CGI, they're motion capture, but the faces and the sets mostly are live action with some CGI altercations.
Yeah.
That's the problem, though. The thing that most Cats fans, from what I've gathered, don't like the plot of Cats. They think the music is eh. The thing they like about it is the costumes, the set design, and the dancing. Yeah, it's all that shit. You can't make Cats without those. And the fact they sacrificed the costumes, the fact that it's not really a dance-heavy musical, it sucks for people who like Cats, and it sucks for people who don't know about Cats.
Yeah, I think also it's hilarious to know that Cats might be the first movie to have a day one patch. Because I Yeah, I was like, I actually heard it was like, oh, Dame Julie Jones doesn't have fur around her fingers, and there's like, and okay, you know what? We're gonna have to patch this movie, and then the weekend after is like they have a new patch of the movie. I'm like, how? It's like that is because I've always heard because the last time I heard about that was with Crystal Skull, and I remember vividly because I remember actually going to see Crystal Skull with my father, and I vividly remember at the end of the movie, Harrison Ford just looking at Shia LaBeouf and just going, "Not this time, kid," or something like that, and when it came out on home video or something like that, there was no line where it goes. It just cuts to him. It literally just shows him grabbing the hat and just like walking away smiling. No creepy line, whatnot. So it's like, I think it is getting to a point where movies now have the technology to like literally just like up to literally be like a okay, it's like, oh, it's a 3 gigabyte update. Okay, here you go. It's like, and this is the movie. It's like, it might, but yeah, it's Cats itself. It sounds insane, and watching some of the movie feels like it's a fever dream. So yeah, and I
It's interesting though that the change was something that you still see on screen, because I have heard of movies while they're in theaters getting some sort of editing. Like there's this one movie that was targeted towards kids about what was it? It was about show dogs, and one of the scenes is about how judges like to, grab the show dogs by the balls
yeah.
and see how they're doing down there. And of course, it's a kids' movie. A lot of parents complained, so they just cut that scene while it was in theaters. It was a late, but Cats, I feel like, is different from what you're mentioning. And then also, as you said, Indiana Jones, that's a home media change. I feel like those happen
Just regardless.
strangely frequently. Yeah, like Lion King, I know, had some changes from home media. Star Wars, infamous for changes to home media. The Cats is as you said, a day one patch. If you saw that movie opening weekend, you have a different experience than most of the people who saw it.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's still all misery.
Yeah.
I don't think the problem came to Dame Judi Dench's hands. It was
a lot more than just that.
It was.
Yeah. But speaking of musicals, and the fact that Cass does have Ian McKellen, Sir Ian McKellen just randomly there. I know he was actually in the Beauty and the Beast one. Did you actually see the live action? Because I know you just mentioned Lion King. I haven't really bothered with the live action Disney adaptations. I think I only got up to and maybe stopped after Maleficent. Maleficent. Thank you. I'm very tongue-tied. Maleficent. See, this is hard. Yeah. This is what happens when you have a guy who just speaks like fast, and his mind even speaks faster. So Maleficent, yeah, I believe I stopped around Maleficent, so I never really got.
That was early on with the remakes.
Yeah, so I was like, because I know it came out. It was like, oh, there's Maleficent, there's Cinderella. I'm like, oh, okay. I just see what they gotta do. They gotta just do like the straight remake adaptations, no music, all that stuff like that. And sure enough, once Beauty and Beast came out, it's just like, oh, we have a surefire rocket thing. Oh, no. I out of all the recent remakes that they saw with Disney in the musical ones was Aladdin, which I thought was actually entertaining.
Aladdin. I auditioned for that movie.
Really?
Yeah, I got one. Like it was a multi-step process. I got past the first step, which was just sending the tape, and then they asked, "Okay, can you sing this and read these lines?" And I never heard from them again. It was quite entertaining, but the script that they gave me, the little side they gave me, seemed like a downgrade already, because it was the scene where what's her face? Jasmine is
Yeah.
talking with her maid, who wasn't in the original movie, and they wanted to, he thought that she was the maid and the maid was the princess and whatnot. But
Because if it
yeah,
already,
when
because if they've already worked with Star Wars, it's like, yeah. Because I feel like that was a plot line that because that was a plot line they already did with Star Wars, which was the maid was actually the handmaid was actually the princess, and the princess was the maid. So it was like, but yeah,
so there it kind of works. Here
it doesn't. Yeah,
it just
it
feels
felt
weird
good.
because she ends up being the genie's love interest, and the actress is like 20 years younger than Will Smith.
Yeah, and the genie is the genie is like 2,000 years old, so age doesn't really matter. But
That's true.
in real life, it's just like she's like 20 years younger than Will Smith, and Will Smith was like literally in his early 50s when the movie came out, or when he was doing the movie. But yeah, I felt it was an interesting take. I don't mind what they did with Jafar. I just feel like his thing just came out of nowhere because it's like, oh, it's Jafar. It's like he's already evil, all that stuff. But I feel like they didn't build up Jafar the way they would have done just regularly, because it's like the same thing with Marvel movies. It's like for the past until I want to say like after or before Thor Ragnarok or around that area, their villains were kind of like very one noted, like that sort of thing. They really didn't take the like around the time when Thor Ragnarok was coming out. So I guess like when Homecoming was coming out or Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was coming out, like around that area. Like that's when all these Marvel movies started like really, really helping their villains becoming a lot more like villains. But when I was watching the last remake or adaptation, like Jafar really didn't come out as being he's a villain. He's just a villain for the sake of villainy. He just comes off as being very one noted. And in a musical, like I don't even remember even if he had like the villain song where he goes about how he loves being like the like in every musical there's always that villain song where it's like the villain has that
The original Aladdin didn't have a real villain song. He had the reprise of Prince Ali. But honestly, I think Jafar was enough of a bad bitch to not need a full villain song. But I do agree with you. I think the one thing that Disney live-action remakes keep failing on that
it's like they don't properly
the villains don't slap.
Yeah.
Like they're not fun.
Yeah, like Gaston in Beauty and the Beast remake. It's like cast Luke Evans, and Luke Evans is a charismatic actor, and you have Josh Gad as I was about to say Pandu.
LeFou.
Yeah, as his sidekick, and it's like they don't really do much outside of just being, Josh Gad being essentially what's his character from Frozen, Olaf. In live action form, which I don't think is probably a good descriptive character, but
it's also great that they decided to make his character gay.
Yeah.
So that the first Disney character that they have as gay is a character named the Fool in French.
Oh wow.
So they're trying to be progressive, but then they end up kind of shooting themselves in the foot, and being just as problematic as they were in the past. I think it's even worse than something like the crows from Dumbo. I mean, not as bad, of course, but like the fact that they're trying and then not confronting other problems they have, it makes Disney more problematic than they actually are. I still see all these remakes. I still did my dumb little Disney marathon 2 years ago, but I do have an issue with the way they're trying to beat around the bush of the fact that they all were problematic.
Yeah, I think they're trying to update it to 2012 to 21st 21st century standards, where it's like, oh, we've seen your problems and we're going to try and not be as problematic as we were. But at the same time, you're still doing stuff that feels problematic at the same time. Like what you just said with Beauty and the Beast, where it's like, his character, oh, it's like, even though there is a gay character, he's still portrayed as a buffoonish, comedy character, as opposed to just being as opposed to being his own self.
And
And
it's one shot of the movie that could easily be cut out for a Chinese release, which is what they do for
a lot
pretty
of
much any, like what they did with
Mulan.
what was the Mulan, or what was Star Wars? What was the most recent Star Wars movie?
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. There's these two pilot women who kiss, and it's just thrown in there so that they could say, "Look, we have a gay character in Star Wars," and it's so they can cut the scene in China, because it wouldn't get a general audience rating in China if it has a gay kiss in it. Yeah. The problem is Star Wars isn't popular in China to begin with. So them doing that is for pennies in comparison in what they could be doing. They could have made Poe and Finn a gay couple. I ship it. They had more chemistry than any other romantic duo in that whole franchise. I don't think there was really any, but still.
Especially in the sequel trilogy. So, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been nice if they were a thing. Like, it gives Poe and Finn something to do, because they actually have... It seems like they were building that up. The fact that Poe and Finn keep...
Yeah, it's just that Disney doesn't feel like they don't... It's like, the weird thing is that Disney doesn't... Like, even though they want to be progressive and all that stuff, it just feels like they don't want to pull the trigger and actually do a lot of this stuff. And when they do these stuff, it's usually in like Marvel stuff, because it's like, oh, it's what was it? The Eternals,
I think Black Panther. I think Black Panther is the one that definitely had the most balls when it came to confronting social issues, because its villain was someone who had a very sympathetic motivation.
Oh, yeah.
And they full out said the Western world killed Africa except for this one. Like, they got the point of Black Panther across. I think that is also why it worked. It is what Black Panther was meant to represent. Marvel was never one to shine away from political issues. X-Men was created as an allegory for all forms of bigotry. Black Panther about, it's literally called the Black Panther. There's no subtlety there.
Yeah. And the weird thing is like, they have great cast and, great directors, all that stuff. And the weird thing is like, and I could actually not translate. I could actually go segue into another thing, was that Star Trek seems to be doing the same thing, where it's like, oh, they're trying to be as progressive. It's weird, because Star Trek. I actually, for the life of me, like a few years ago, actually watched Star Trek from the first episode to its last movie pre-reboot. So I actually watched the first episode of Star Trek, went through all these stages of Star Trek where it was like horrible, slow moving, and then it became so great to actually watch, and then you just finish with Nemesis and just go like, this is the type of stuff that they're gonna leave off of. This is the final chapter in Star Trek. So it's like, but nowadays it's like Star Trek has like gay characters and LGBTQ characters as well, and people are like, why is Star Trek doing it? It's like, and the weird thing is, it's like, they actually have characters who are quote unquote, well, not quote unquote, they have characters who are literally like that already in the show. One of the characters from Deep Space Nine, why am I forgetting her name? Dax, the Dax symbiote. I mean Symbiote. Damn it, Venom. I'm always saying Symbiote wrong now because of that movie. Dax, for a better term, could either be a male or female because Dax was able to essentially possess bodies. Odo was a changeling. He had no gender. He could either be male or female, and in the end, they didn't really say he was either male or female. He was just like Odo. The same thing with the female changeling. It was like even though she presented herself as female, they still were genderless. So it's like, and the weird thing is like they had this whole thing with gender, all that stuff in Star Trek, and they handled it beautifully because Star Trek was made for that type of audience. And I think Star Wars and Disney itself have been trying to catch up with the way Star Trek was able to do the thing. It's just that, as I said before, or as we pointed it out, there's stuff that was problematic in some of the stuff with in the past. It's just that Disney doesn't want to, like, it's like them trying to remake an already problematic movie, i.e., something,
Dumbo.
yeah, like Dumbo itself, and saying, oh, we updated it, and I believe I saw some of the Dumbo remake, possibly, I'm not really sure, but
it's the one that I have. It's one of the few I haven't seen. But from what I heard, there's some deep animal welfare meaning. They cut the crows out, and they don't confront any of the. From what I've heard, it's just kind of tone deaf in the end. It reduces down to be nice to animals, which everyone already
does
for the most part. Is like P.T. Barnum's circus has been dead for years now. I don't think animal welfare in circuses is as huge a problem as it was a decade ago or even 2 days. Like it's
actually bringing back a few Jackson. I actually just started The Greatest Showman a few days ago because it randomly just came into mind, like The Greatest Showman, and then I was like, wasn't P.T. Barnum like one person to deal with in real life, and here they are trying to normalize them as being like almost like a lovable rogue, where it's like, I'm just doing this for just to make money, but also support people who I love and all that stuff. And then when you look at in real life, it's just like, it's like
it's generic, like it's the kind of movie that appeals to maybe I'm just bitter because of terrible experiences in high school, but it appeals to these snot-nosed theater kids. Like I remember when I went to go see Beauty and the Beast remake with my group of people so I was in my high school's production of Beauty and the Beast my senior year, and it was the same month that I played Maurice, so the pun Maurice went around like crazy. Anyway, so we decide let's all go to the theater after school, and the movie theater will watch the remake. It's a couple weeks after the show's over. Everyone chooses a day, a time, whatever. I'm told to keep my mouth shut because I have been cynical about every movie to exist because I'm an angsty 18-year-old. But I do agree with 18-year-old me in the sense that the movie was not very good. But everyone's going crazy over all these little things like, haha, the movie's so self-aware, teehee. It's jokes that we make about it. And it seems like The Greatest Showman was targeted towards the same audience. This is this powerful ballad, uplifting song that we're going to get an Oscar nomination for.
Like the type of stuff that you would hear like theater kids sing in the hallways like, as they're warming up. Like, this is me and all that stuff.
Like that's their audition song. That is what they'll play at a party and hype up over like they're unique. They won't play whatever's on the top 100 because they're too cool for that. They got to put on, a movie that grossed hundreds of millions by probably the same company that owns the record company that makes the top 100 stuff you're shitting on.
Yeah.
And again, I indulge in this. I have seen most of the Disney live action remakes in theaters. I'm not much better for watching it. I like to say I do it for the sake of science, but that seems even more pretentious. But yeah, it's the reason why these movies are making hundreds of millions of dollars. The lesson in the end is even Cats was not liked by this crowd.
Exactly. It's
like I see these social media, the people I went to high school with, and they're like, so I just saw Cats. I don't get it. I don't like it. Like, that's how you know you messed up.
Yeah, it's like, for the most part, and it's like what you just said before. It's like, I remember when I was in community college, around the time Greatest Showman, or at least around these remakes came out, it's like they would play, or at least play on their iPhones, or uh, whatever that boombox thing, the portable box, portable MP3 player thing, whatever it's called, and you know what I mean. You know what I mean, folks. Anyway, but I remember a lot of this stuff is like they would play the same sort of music that would be on the top 100, but also they'd be playing like the theater crowd music, and it was like, oh, this, it's like, and the weird thing is like you were just said before, a lot of this music is tailor made for people of this caliber, where it's like they need audition songs. That's why a lot of these new musicals, especially the Disney ones, they put in like new songs for so when people are looking for songs to audition with, it's like, oh, this is a new song, so even though this just came out, no one has really done it. And you're like, oh, it's like, if they do Les Miserables, it's like, oh, they gotta do the same songs from Les Miserables and all that stuff. So when there's a new musical coming out, especially if it's like one of those stage musicals and they have a new song, that's when they do it for like people like this, whereas like they do it for people who really do love the musicals and all this stuff. But at the same time, it can backfire like in Cats, where it's just like no one really enjoyed it outside of people who were like, I don't want to say sadomasochists, but people who were really curious about how bad that movie was.
And yeah, that's more or less why we watched it. Still waiting on that butthole cut. I'm not gonna lie. There was this YouTube edit where they took the trailer and they added buttholes to the cats just because
it just
makes sense.
Yeah,
but it's like I think a lot of the reason also why they add these songs is not just so that it can make extra money. Well, I mean, it is to make money. In the end, It always comes down to money. But I think it's because a lot of songs, they can't be nominated for Oscars if they're from a musical already. It's so they will add new songs that are not from the stage version, that have not been used before. The Beauty and the Beast remake replaces songs from the musical. Like, it's interesting what they do. They have these 4 or 5, I don't know how many new songs, but they all have the same purpose as songs that were added in the musical. Human Again, If I Can't Love Her. The only song that I think is an upgrade is the song Maurice Gets, because it's not like forced in there. It feels like it would work in the original movie, and it feels like it would work in the Broadway version, but whatever. That's actually the only upgrade overall. Just Kevin Kline. I love Kevin Kline, but
he's an underrated actor as it is, and it's crazy how one of the last movies he was like that I saw him was like literally was, I believe, the Prairie Dog movie where he played some sort of detective at a radio station or something like that, and that was like years
I
ago
don't know
too.
which one.
Uh,
Um, but it's not new for movie musicals to have adaptation, like to have not start to have their soundtracks with one or multiple songs added to it. Hopelessly Devoted in Grease, Little Shop of Horrors has Mean Green Mother. All of
yeah,
these, and sometimes they do get added into the musical because they fit. But a lot of the time, it's just because a lot of these, like, it comes down to whether the song makes sense or it seems like it's just forced in there.